Live stream is started. Sergeants, can you start your recordings?
Cloud recording has started.
Sergeant Hope, could you give us the opening, please?
Sure. Good morning, and welcome to today's New York City Council remote hearing on the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. At this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos? I repeat, all panelists, please turn on your videos. Thank you. To minimize disruption, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. Thank you. If you wish to submit testimonies, you may do so via email at landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. I repeat, landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your kind cooperation. Chair Riley, we are ready to begin.
Good morning, and welcome to a meeting of the Subcommittee of Zoning and Franchises. I am Councilmember Kevin Riley, Chair of the Subcommittee. This morning, I'm joined remotely by Councilmembers Shulman, Hanks, Botcher, Carr, Abreu, Juan, and Moya. Today, we will vote on the rezoning proposal for 1220 Avenue P in Brooklyn and Our Lady of Pity at 272 East 151st Street in the Bronx, that were heard by subcommittee on April 12th, and hold public hearings on rezoning proposals for 3501 Vernon Boulevard in Queens and 8040 Lower Moore Street and 2300 Crosby Avenue in Brooklyn. I would also like to note that the Lee Avenue and the Guy R. Brewer Boulevard rezoning proposal originally planned for today's agenda are being laid over. Before we begin, I recognize the subcommittee counsel to review the hearing procedures.
Thank you, Chair Riley, and good morning, council members. I am Angelina Martinez Rubio, counsel to the subcommittee. Members of the public wishing to testify were asked to register for today's hearings. If you wish to testify and have not already registered, please do so now by visiting the New York City Council website at www.councilnyc.gov/land use to sign up. Members of the public may also view a live stream broadcast of this meeting at the council's website. If you need an accessible version of any of the presentations shown today, please send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. When called to testify, individuals appearing before the subcommittee will remain muted until recognized by the chair to speak. Applicant teams will be recognized as a group and called first, followed by members of the public. When the chair recognizes you, your microphone will be unmuted. Please take a moment to check your device and confirm that your mic is on before you begin speaking. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have additional testimony you would like the subcommittee to consider, or if you have written testimony you would like to submit instead of appearing here before the subcommittee, you may email it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number and/or project name in the subject line of your email. During the hearing, council members with questions should use the Zoom raise hand function that appears at the bottom of your participant panel or the primary viewing window. Council members with questions will be announced in order as they raise their hands, and Chair Riley will then recognize members to speak. Witnesses are requested to remain in the meeting until excused by the chair, as council members may have questions for you. Finally, there will be pauses over the course of this meeting for various technical reasons, and we ask that you please be patient as we work through any issues. Chair Riley will now continue with today's agenda items.
Thank you, Council. Today, we will vote to approve pre-considered LUs 37 and 38 related to Our Lady of Pity, 272 East 151st Street rezoning proposal in Chair Salamanca's district in the Bronx. The proposal will rezone an existing R6 to an R7A district and establish an MIH program area utilizing MIH options 1 and 2. These approvals will facilitate the development of a new 100% affordable 9-story building. Chair Salamanca is in support of this proposal. We will also vote to approve pre-considered LUs 35 and 36 for the 1220 Avenue P rezoning proposal relating to property in Minority Whip, Vernikoff's district in Brooklyn. The proposal would rezone an existing R5B to an R7A district and establish an MIH program area, utilizing option 1 and 2. These approval would facilitate the enlargement of an existing Levitt Medical Center. Minority Whip Vernikoff is in support of this proposal. Members of the subcommittee who have questions or remarks about today's item should use the raise hand button now. Council will announce members in the order that their hands are raised. Council, are there any council member with questions or remarks at this time?
Chair, I don't see any council members with questions or remarks at this time.
I now call for a vote to approve pre-considered LUs 35 and 36 relating to 1200 Avenue P rezoning proposal and pre-considered LUs 37 and 38 relating to the Our Lady of Pity rezoning proposal. Council, please call the roll.
Chair Riley,
I don't know.
Councilmember Moya,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Abreu,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Botcher,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanks, Councilmember Hanks. All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Schulman
Aye.
and Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
The vote currently stands at 7 in the affirmative, no negatives, no abstentions, and we will leave the vote open.
Thank you, Council. To continue with today's meeting, I will now open the public hearing on pre-considered LUs relating to the yearbook number C220050 ZMQ and N220051 ZRQ relating to the 35-01 Vernon Boulevard rezoning proposal in Councilmember Wan's district in Queens. This application seeks a zoning map amendment to rezone an existing R5 to an M1-4/R7A and establish a special mixed-use district and a related zoning text amendment to establish an MIH program area. For anyone wishing to testify on this item, if you have not already done so, you must register online, and you may do that now by visiting the council's website at council.nyc.gov/land use. Once again, that's council.nyc.gov/land use. I will now, is Councilmember Wan still here?
She's here, Chair.
Oh,
Yep, I'm here.
hey, good morning, Councilmember Wan. I would like to allow Councilmember Wan to give any remarks regarding this project. Councilmember Wan?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. For 3501 Vernon Boulevard, the community has been very supportive, as well as the developer and team who has been very engaged with the needs of the community, which I truly appreciate, because representing District 26, which encompasses Long Island City, Woodside, Astoria, and Sunnyside, my district is the second most developed within the last decade in all of New York City. So it is really important to me that we work to promote responsible neighborhood, community-led development to make sure that we have affordable housing, as well as the needs of community-based needs that are agreed upon are continue to be kept accountable, as well as continuing to commit to making sure that we are working with the community. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I look forward to working with this team right here, as well as the team that's on the call right now to continue to make our neighborhood a better place to live.
Thank you, Councilmember Wan. And we also been joined by Chair Lewis. Council, would you like to take Chair Lewis' vote real quick?
Yes, continuing the vote on LUs 35 and 36 and 37 and 38, Chair Lewis.
I vote aye.
So the final vote is 8 in the affirmative, no negatives, no abstentions. The items are approved and will be referred to the full land use committee.
Thank you, Council. Council, can you please call the first panel for this item?
Yes, the panel for this item is Eric Palatnik, Bishop Taylor, Alvin Shine, and Silas Levitt. Sorry if I mispronounced any of your names.
Council, please administer the affirmation.
Applicants, can you please raise your right hand and I will call on you individually to respond to the following question. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answers to all council member questions? Eric Palatnik,
Yes, I do.
Alvin Shine,
Yes, I do.
Bishop Taylor,
Yes, I do.
and Silas Levitt.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. For the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of this presentation, please send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that's landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now the applicant team may begin. Panelists, as you begin, I just ask that you please reinstate your name and organization for the record. You may begin.
Thank you very much, Chair Riley. My name is Eric Palatnik. I'm the attorney that's representing 3501 Vernon Boulevard. I would like to thank you and all the members of your committee for taking the time to help improve conditions around New York City. And as the council member just said, making each neighborhood a better place. We are proud to be here today with our entire team with what is really a community-involved rezoning, even though it is privately sponsored. We have been working at ULURP on this process for about 3 years with city planning very collegially and with Community Planning Board 1. And we spent a lot of time in the development here, and you're about to see a 9-story building that's in an R5 district in the middle of Vernon Boulevard, which is certainly not an R5 type of community. And it's going to allow for a host of different uses, some of which are private. There'll be market rate housing, but equally as important, there'll be affordable housing at option level 1. Equally as important, there'll be larger unit sizes, which is something that the community had asked us to do. And in addition to that, we'll also, in addition to the R7A that we're asking you to go to, uniquely at the ground floor, we are proposing a MX district. And the MX district would allow for manufacturing, light manufacturing use to occur at the second floor. We're proposing to have a combination of 27,000 square feet of space at the second floor and at the ground floor, where the ground floor will be retail, but the second floor will be light manufacturing space, to which we've partnered up. You might have heard Bishop Taylor was introduced a few moments ago, and he's going to speak to you about the different ideas we have for that space and the different initiatives he's been involved in. Also, we've been working with, I believe we just had a meeting as a team, I was not there, with PS 76, which was a request of the councilwoman and a very good idea to work with PS 76 to try to find a way that we can contribute to some improvements around the schools, since we hope to bring many young people to the neighborhood that are going to go to school. And that's the hope that we're going to do. So we don't want to stress the system, but we want to improve it. So all that's being done to say to you that we've created a very harmonious development. You did pronouncedly correct the names of everybody when you introduced everybody a few moments ago. That is Silas, that is on the phone, Silas Levitt. He's with Hannock. I know that was a risk. You could have said Silas, which I did yesterday. Silas is Silas's name, and he is a representative of Hannock, and he's proudly here to speak to you about how they're going to be partnering up on administering affordable housing. They are a locally, to this community, Astoria-based not-for-profit that provides affordable housing and other social services. And we're proud of the whole team. So with that as the introduction, if you could pull up the screen, I'll go through the application relatively quickly in a New York kind of way, because we have so much support. I don't think that anything is controversial, but if you want to come back to anything, if I do go too quick, I've been accused of speaking too fast. So if you do have any questions, please come back. This shows you the image of the building. Next slide, please. The owner is right now a for-profit automotive parts distributor. You can go to the next slide while I'm introducing them. They distribute auto parts out of this building, which is a early century of the last century, rather nondescript manufacturing building. They have other locations, most notably in the Bronx, where most of their employees work, and they can consolidate their work into, and they will be doing it. So no jobs are going to be lost. Next slide, please. gives you a good depiction for what the neighborhood looks like. You can see it's the Vordonia Towers, catty corner to us, as they say, diagonally to the top left image of your screen. That's a relatively new development. That's an R7 development. We're asking you for a similar development here, an R7A that has 300 units. The East River is to our left, you could see, and Manhattan is over there. And to our right of our property is an interesting development called the Cigar Factory, which is a repurposed cigar factory that now has maker space types of uses, similar to what we're proposing on the second floor. If you can go to the next slide, please. This gives you a good idea for the zoning districts. If you're looking at it from a zoning lens, you could see that we are in what I described before as an R5 district. And if you take a look at the pictures as we go around, it certainly doesn't look like an R5. What we're proposing here, I think, would be more consistent with what's going on along Vernon Boulevard. We're just a few blocks away from Rainey Park, the Noguchi Museum, Socrates Sculpture Park. There's Costco down there for those who go shopping over there. So the R7 is really more suited to what we're asking for here, is more suited to the community. And that's what I think we've had so much support in the application. Next slide, please. This is just a very technical slide, but the left side shows you what's now. I'm just reinforcing as we are here for a zoning application. The left side is what it is now. The right side is what we are proposing. And in the middle is what's allowed. So we give you an idea, but basically if you take a glance there, I'm just going to enlarge my screen. You can see we're proposing 107 dwelling units, 26 of which would be permanently affordable under option level 1. 77 parking spaces would be the seller and a subseller. It'd be ground floor commercial, second floor light manufacturing that Bishop Taylor is going to speak to, and then you've got residential above. And if you can go to the next slide, please. And I guess I spoiled the surprise because this tells you all of that once more. This gives you a good image of the building. The building fronts on 3 blocks, 9th Street, 35th, and Vernon. So because of that, you're looking at the building from a couple of different perspectives here. The bottom one shows you the perspective on 9th Street. That's where the parking entrance will be on the far left. The top one shows you the perspective as if you're on the corner of Vernon Boulevard and 35th. So the right side of the top one is the street frontage on 35th. And the building, as you can see here, has the attributes of it are laid out, and it calls out in specificity the breakdown of the commercial space, which is about 8,000 square feet for light for general retail at the ground floor, and 18,000 square feet of light manufacturing space. And the next slide will show you that really clearly in a breakdown of the building, so you can see how it looks, in the cross section here. It's just like you would have imagined. The upper floors are residential, 2 floors of the commercial, and then well parked downstairs. Next slide, please. Next slide gives you a good image for what this area is all about. At the top of the slide, you can see much taller buildings up on 12th Street and the top of the image. But the bottom of the slide, the very bottom where you don't see anything, that's the East River. So you can see that we are on Vernon Boulevard, which historically it's underdeveloped here. We all believe, really. I think that's what the overwhelming support for the application shows, but it does demonstrate that there's obviously a good spot here to create more housing. Next slide, please. Next slide, I won't dwell on it, but the program, because it was supported, so well supported the community board, I think it's self-evident that it does align with their needs. Most importantly, we work very closely. It's a hallmark tradition of what I do. I never want to come before your committee and give you people that are arguing. I want to try to come before your committee with problems solved. Next slide, please. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to let Bishop Taylor speak for a few moments. I know he's on the phone. And he has been working in a lot of outreach. And Bishop, do you want to speak for a few moments maybe about what we're proposing here? And you can go now while he does that. Maybe whoever's controlling the slide could flip to the next slide.
Thank you, Eric. Chair Riley, to my council member 1, and to all the committee council members on the call today. Thank you for hearing us. We worked very hard with the developer and ownership to create something that would be a little different in our space. And we built on our business innovation work that originated in Astoria and wanted to expand that work to include Ravenswood and Queensbridge, taking a play off of WeWork, and we created a model called WeWork, which will support local MWBEs, local WBEs, LBEs, entrepreneurs, people that are interested in flushing out their ideas and building their business. Urban Upbound is going to locate business innovations in this space and then create some ancillary space for makers that are in development and give them the technical assistance. I'm sorry, I just had some dental work done. Give them the technical assistance needed in order to help their businesses thrive. Urban Upbound has a long list of cooperative businesses that we have launched using this particular model, and we're looking forward to expanding that in this particular space. Also, we've met with PS 76, the local principal, Timothy Miller, did a walkthrough of the playground, the large playground, which is in serious disrepair, and looking to work very closely with Dr. Composto, who is the district leader for the superintendent rather for District 30, and the principal to figure out how we can comprehensively beautify that playground. It's a very large playground. We've also had meetings with all tenant association presidents, particularly Ravenswood, Queensbridge, and Astoria, the closest to this particular development. And we're excited about not only the We Make space, but also the laborers, the construction jobs that Urban Upbound will be sourcing for, and also any permanent jobs that are there, working closely with 32BJ to source those permanent jobs in the building as well. So, I mean, overall, this was an easy project to promote because the developer had such a willingness to add value to the community. And he's also committed to continued partnerships with nonprofits in our area with financial resources and technical support. So I'm very encouraged by the path that this project has taken. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I muted myself while you were speaking, and it turns out I could not unmute myself, which I think my family would like that feature a lot, by the way, if you all wanted to speak to my family. Thank you, Bishop, much for giving us the all that information. And we'll come back to Bishop if anybody has any questions. If you can go now to the next slide, please. UNI is an organization we've started to talk to. We have not made final arrangements with them, but we are trying to promote the idea with them, if not on this project, at least on other future developments, as well as a recent one we did before in the previous committee on 4th Avenue, which is UNI is a large black-brown bike self-storage facility operator that creates these pods that can go anywhere, basically, both in public spaces and in private spaces. And here we're on the bike path on Vernon Boulevard, which is part of the Queens Greensway. So we're hoping that we'd be able to include this within the development, although we have not yet come to an agreement with them. Shabazz Stewart is the gentleman who runs it. You might have seen some of his installations. I believe there is one at Domino Park. So it's a public installation. It's free bicycle parking. And I don't know how he makes money out of it, but he does. Next slide, please. Here you can see some renderings of the building. I think you've become intimately familiar with that already, so I won't go there. I'm going to ask you to go two slides forward, and we'll pause for a moment there and talk about the affordability. And then I think that would be a good time to, there's an affordability chart. If you can go one more slide, please. One more after this, or two more maybe. Next one, please. There you go. All right, great. So this is a good place to stop. Alvin Shine is on the call, Sidon and Shine, and so is Mr. Levitt, who is here with us as well with Hannock. So Silas would be happy to speak to you as well as what he's going to do to implement the affordable housing. And Alvin is here to speak to you about the breakdown of units and the square footages and the percentage of AMIs that we've tried to achieve. Alvin, if you want to give everybody just a few minutes of your time, just explain.
Sure. So we have a chart of approximate allocation of affordable units. I'm sure, as everyone knows, MIH is based on residential square footage and not unit count. So based on whatever the final plans are of the units, these numbers may change because we have to achieve the requirements under MIH for 60% average AMI. But in any case, this is an approximation of how the income levels would show at today's AMIs. So it would have a segment at 40% AMI, which would allow for one-bedroom households earning at $33,440 per year, with a rent at $823 per month. And the two bedrooms would have a slightly higher income level, and the rent for those units would be $981 a month. There would also be a three-bedroom unit at $1126 per month. Then at 60% AMI, they go up correspondingly higher, and then there would also be units at 80% AMI. So in that way, you're addressing different income levels in the community, not all at 60%, not all at 40%, or not all at 8%, but you have a good mix of different affordable income.
Thank you, Alvin. I think we'll pause here, and then we'll come back afterwards. If any of the committee members would have any questions, we'd be happy to come back to it. And I guess this is probably a good place for us to wrap up and hear a little bit from Silas. And Silas, do you want to just give him a little bit of an explanation as far as to how you'll be implementing the affordable units, and if they can answer any questions anybody may have about that?
Yes. Good morning, members of the subcommittee on zoning and franchises. Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Silas Levitt, and I'm the Housing Development Coordinator for HANC. I'm here on behalf of HANC to voice our support for the rezoning application being presented. HANC is an affordable housing and social services nonprofit that was founded in 1972 in Astoria. Currently, we serve over 30,000 community members from youth to older adults throughout New York City. Additionally, for the last 20 years, HANC has played an ever-expanding role as an affordable housing developer and property manager in New York City. We own 650 units of affordable housing in Queens and are the property management agent of 4 different affordable senior housing buildings throughout the borough. We are fully committed to the development of affordable housing within New York and especially in Astoria, and we support any efforts towards that goal. For this project, we've been engaged as the administering agent for the 26 mandatory inclusionary housing units included with the proposal. So as the MAH unit, HANC will be responsible for ensuring that the affordable units are rented and maintained in compliance with zoning provisions and applicable guidelines. HANC will be working with the developer in 2 ways for this process. First, in terms of marketing the MIH units, HANC will develop the community outreach strategy and work with city agencies to ensure all requirements are met. This includes entering applications into the Housing Connect portal, working with a lottery log, and interviewing potential tenants. Secondly, after the units have been rented, HANC will ensure that all the MIH units in the project meet all requirements and comply with city agency regulations, such as income verification. We are very experienced and familiar in working with HPD's Housing Connect lottery process. HANC has been a member of HPD's Housing and Ambassador program since 2017. This program helps people prepare and apply for Housing Connect affordable housing lotteries, and under the program, HANC provides information and assistance with the application process. So we're very familiar with the lease-up process for projects like this and how it works. HANC has been working in Queens for 50 years, and we are deeply aware of the housing needs in the area. High-quality projects like this one are essential to adding to the affordable housing stock available to the neighborhood, and thus we are strongly supporting this application. And thank you very much for the opportunity to testify here today and for your consideration for this project.
Thank you for your presentation. It's Eric Palatnik, and I'll wrap up just with two things to clear the record. First of all, just so everybody is alert, we do not have an arrangement with 32 BJ. That was something that Alvin had mentioned. Usually we do. We try very hard to do that with them. In this case, we've offered this building to 32 BJ for their involvement, and they've declined. They don't feel the building is the right fit for them. So I wanted to let everybody know that. The second thing I wanted to let everybody know is that we have been working with the borough president's office on their recommendations, as well as that of the council person, who asked us to try to achieve 30% local hiring and use of minority women-owned business enterprises within the development and operation of the building, which we are going to be striving for and reporting back to the borough president about that as we continue on with our development. So we wanted to just update you on that. And of course, with respect to green features, I skipped right through, but the building will be designed with a host of green features. It will not be a LEED certified building, but it will be an electric building in compliance with the new laws that your council has enacted, as well as other energy efficient inclusions such as a green roof. There'll be energy and sound attenuated and insulated windows, as well as all of the individual cooling units or heating units that might be in any units. So we want to say thank you. That's the conclusion of our application. We know we went on a little bit longer than I would have liked to, but we tried to really answer any question you may have had. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I just have a few questions for the applicant team before I turn it over to Council Member Juan. This application currently maps both MIH option 1 and option 2. Can you confirm that the applicant intends to develop under MIH option 1?
Yes, we do. It's left on there as a vestige of the original application, which started at 2. Of course, it's up to the council's discretion to strike it, but we do agree to do option level 1.
Thank you, Eric. And has the applicant made a commitment to hire I think you just said it, but MWBE contractors for project construction as recommended by the borough president?
Yes, of course, 100%. Well, not 100% BE, but 100% yes, committing to having a diverse workforce, including minority women-owned business enterprises. Definitely.
Thank you. I will now turn it over to Councilmember Juan to ask any questions that she may have. Councilmember Juan.
Thank you so much for the presentation. To follow up on Kevin's last question, for the use of 30% local hiring and the use of MWBEs, have you started the outline of a reporting scheme or a reporting structure with the borough president's office for quarterly reporting as requested on the number of people hired to make sure that these goals are reached?
No, we haven't yet, because we don't have an agreement, we don't have an approval in place, and we haven't commenced doing anything other than this part of it. But of course, once we're done with that, the bishop will be involved with it. I will stay involved with it. And we have been in touch with the borough president. We recognize that this is a new procedure that is going into place. And as with anything that's new, it needs a little bit of initiative from the people that are starting it to begin with to make sure it works well. So you have our commitment that we will be continuing on with that. And we're a dedicated partner on all of our applications that we work with you on, as most of the developers that we work for are local. It's the unique thing about New York City. These people are coming back to you again. It's a relatively small handful of people who are developing the buildings in New York City. So we're happy.
You know what I forgot to mention in my presentation? I have it here on my notes that we have a comprehensive list of, and we're building more of MWBEs, MBEs, and LBEs to work on the project. And we're trying to hit that 30% threshold. So, you know, we're definitely trying to do that. And I'm going to be monitoring that very, very closely. When I come on board with these projects with these guys, I tell them, listen, this is a two-edged sword, because, you know, my assistance is going to be in the form of making sure that my community is fully benefiting from this particular development. So, yeah, so I'm going to be monitoring it all the way through the process, council member.
Great. Thank you so much, Bishop. If you need additional recommendations for MWBEs that are local, please feel free to reach out to our office, especially because I know that there is a growing population of APIs, especially the Bengali community, as well as Tibetan and Nepali. So we would like to see those businesses supported in this project as well.
Thank you. I'll make sure that I'll have one of my staff members reach out and get the list from you. We want that list. Thank you.
My next question is on an update from the school, the local schools on the community open spaces based on their needs. Can you give us an update on the discussion with PS 76 regarding the potential upgrades to their location?
Yes. So I met with Dr. Composto, and I met with Principal Miller and Felix, who is the owner of the project, actually the son of the owner. And we did a walkthrough of the school and the playground. The playground is humongous. It's like maybe 200 by 100. We're doing a little bit more research now, because I understand there may be a shared relationship that was established like 1,000 years ago between the school and parks, which is probably one of the reasons why no one is taking responsibility for the maintenance thereof. And so I'm kind of digging into that as well as a larger, inquiry of why we're kind of in, in this in between space where nobody wants to do anything. In the meantime, we're going to start getting estimates on the very basic upgrade for that playground, and that's the asphalt. It's uneven, it's dangerous. Kids are running around there all the time, and I saw a trip factor 1,000 times when I was there. And so I think that at the very base of what we want to do is redo that asphalt, and then in tandem with that, working along with the principal and Dr. Capasso and figuring out this maze of easement, shared usage, responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. So I can report back to you, council member, on that, because I'll probably need your office to figure that out as well, too.
Sounds good. And then do you have any other schools regarding partnerships at this time?
With this particular developer, no, but with another project we have, Andromeda is working with PS 111 to put up that new LED sign. And the contractor was there yesterday, took the measurements. And so we're like, hopefully in a week, that'll be done.
That is great to hear. I know Principal Dragon will be so excited to see that come to real life, because I know that's been a long time dream of hers to have that. And then will you commit to having a written agreement with these schools after you have ironed out all the details, memorializing the support, especially for the asphalt, and if any other schools like PS 111 comes to fruition before the vote for this project?
Yes. Again, the PS 111 is connected to the Andromeda project, not this project, but the asphalt for PS 76, we will memorialize that in the document.
Okay, great. And then my last question is, would you be willing to send a letter to my office memorializing your community partnerships, everything that you have outlined today, including MWBEs and the partnership with schools and everything else that you have in your proposal before the final vote for this project?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And my dog has made an entrance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Juan. I now invite my colleagues to ask any questions. If you have any questions for the applicant panel, please use the raise hand button on the participant panel. Council, are there any council member questions?
There are no council members with raised hands at this time, so no question.
Thank you, council. There being no future questions for this applicant panel, you guys are excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on 35-01 Vernon Boulevard proposal?
I don't believe so, but I do need to make a quick announcement because there's a caller that we're not sure if the caller's here for this item. So if the caller with number ending 7980 is here to testify on 3501 Vernon Boulevard, could you please press star 9 on your phone so staff can identify you? No response, so I guess the caller is not here for that item. So no members of the public to testify on this item, so we can go ahead and close the hearing.
There being no members of the public who wish to testify on pre-considered LUs relating to ULIPs numbers C220050, ZMQ, and N220051, ZRQ, relating to the 35-01 Vernon Boulevard rezoning proposal. The public hearing is now closed and the items are laid over. I will now open the public hearing on pre-considered LUs relating to ULIPs number C210299 ZMK and N210300 ZRK relating to the 840 Lorimer Street rezoning proposal in Councilmember Ressler's district in Brooklyn. This application seeks a zoning map amendment to rezone the existing M1-2/R6 and R6A/C2-4 districts to a C4-5D district and a related zoning text amendment to establish an MIH program area. For anyone wishing to testify on this item, if you have not already done so, you must register online, and you may do that now by visiting the council's website at council.nyc.gov/land use. Once again, that's council.nyc.gov/land use. And we've been joined by Councilmember Wrestler, and I would like to give him the floor to give any remarks regarding this project. Councilmember Wrestler, good afternoon.
Great. Well, it is always a good day to be with you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Mr. Chair Riley. And I think I can speak for all of my colleagues that while we were pleased by the appearance of Councilmember Wan's dog, I think we were all hoping for the baby. And sorry to not get a chance to see that cutie. But I want to thank you for holding this public hearing today and having the opportunity to speak on 840 Lorimer. You know, our council district, the 33rd, has had dramatically more housing starts than any other council district in the city of New York over the last decade, in fact, over the last 15 plus years. And what we have been sorely lacking are the necessary infrastructure investments to meet the needs of our growing community. So this is a project where they can build as of right, where they can continue to expand housing supply without going through a zoning change. If they are insistent on going through with this ULURP process as they appear to be, then we just need to make sure that the infrastructure investments are being made to actually meet the needs of our growing community, that we're not just seeing luxury housing, we're seeing deep and true affordable housing beyond what MIH requires. And this site is on, overlooks McCarran Park, which is, you know, our crown jewel of our parks in North Brooklyn, and a park that needs a whole lot of tender loving care. And so we're hoping that if this were to move forward, that the applicant understands that McCarran is a site that is really in need of additional support and investment to accommodate the numbers of individuals that will be living in this building, as well as neighbors. And then, you know, last thing I'd say is, you know, I appreciate that the applicant is a longtime owner of the property, going back over 40 years. It's been a business at this location for a long time. They've been a solid neighbor in our community, but you know, we need to see significantly more from the applicant with regard to real investments in affordable housing and our infrastructure to get us to a good place on this project. So I'm hopeful that we'll hear that commitment today, and look forward to their presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember Wrestler. Council, please call the first panel for this item.
The first panel for this item is Richard LaBelle, Amanda Ionati, David Parnes, Alyssa Gelnick, and Kevin Williams, and Sam Feigenbaum. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. So applicants, can you please raise your right hand, and I will call on you individually to answer the following questions. Question: do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answers to all council member questions? Richard LaBelle?
I do.
Amanda Ionati?
I do.
David Parnes?
I do.
Elisa Gelnick?
I do.
Kevin Williams?
I do.
And Sam Feigenbaum?
I do.
Sorry.
Feigenbaum, you got it right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. For the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of this presentation, please please send an email request to landuse.testimony@council.nyc.gov. And now the applicant team may begin. Panelists, as you begin, I just ask that you please reinstate your name and organization for the record. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Riley. Council members, once again, Richard LaBelle of Sheldon LaBelle PC for the applicant, joined here by the applicant team who you were introduced to moments ago. This is, I think we have the wrong presentation loaded up. Is that possible? I think we need 840 Lorimer.
And while we do that, I don't know if I got Richard. Did I swear you in? Richard Bienenfeld, did I swear you in? I believe you just joined. So Richard LaBelle, can I just swear him in real quick?
Please.
So for Richard Bienenfeld, can you raise your right hand and answer the following question? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answers to all council member questions?
I do so affirm.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Angelina. So this is the 840 Lorimer Street rezoning. Next slide. By way of a project summary, as was already discussed, this is a rezoning from an existing mixed-use R6A C24 district to a C45 district. And this rezoning would result in here a 10-story plus mixed-use, plus cellar mixed-use commercial and residential development with approximately 83,000 square feet of floor area, roughly 5.5 FAR, and a total of 74 dwelling units. Again, as a function of mandatory inclusionary housing, the applicant would be mapping options 1 and 2 on the site, which here would provide for, at option 1, 19 affordable dwelling units. As was suggested by Councilmember Ressler, there are as of right options on this property. With an existing mixed use R6 district, you can build a fairly robust building to a height of 110 feet. The issue, of course, is that you don't get a great mix of uses. It's heavily weighted towards community facility use. And most importantly, you don't get the same affordability as you would under the proposal. So we, first of all, would like to acknowledge that Councilmember Ressler has been exceedingly generous with his time and energy on this project in putting us in touch with local stakeholders and meeting with them and his office. And also to acknowledge that there is a path forward here where we would be able to facilitate additional community benefits through this rezoning, as will be detailed in the rest of the presentation. Next slide. So you can see from the zoning map presented on the next slide that we are part of this MX8 M12R6 mixed-use district established after the Greenpoint Williamsburg rezoning in 2006. Next slide. The next slide demonstrates with a little bit more particularity the exact boundaries of the zoning district at the C45D, and the land use map, which is the next slide, kind of better illustrates the land use rationale for why the C45D would be appropriate here. The parks here, from a zoning standpoint, operate to provide somewhat of an open space. And so generally, the city believes that additional density is merited along, not only along street corners as this is, but also along the park, because really it is a marginal increase in terms of density and bulk. So here you've got great street access to the site. You've got G-train stop, which is relatively close to the site along Manhattan Avenue. And so with that and with other buildings which sit upon the park, city planning has approved in their most recent consideration the application at the C45D. Next slide. So here we have some pictures of the existing manufacturing facility. You can see a long-standing building on the site, most recently used as a feather manufacturing facility. It itself is rather bulky at roughly 40,000 square feet. But it is it's a manufacturing use. It is a noxious use. Upon conversations with community stakeholders, including the community board, in the past there have been complaints with regards to the fact that this use is not entirely compatible with some of the surrounding residential uses, which we hope to bring into the area if the rezoning is approved. Next slide. So the next slide, and feel free to page through some of the pictures here, demonstrates this 3-story building, including a 4th story from various angles. And if you want to go to page 10 of the presentation, we have the statistics with regards to the proposed development. If you want to page through to the sheet which says proposed development, giving our photographer a good workout here. There we go. So the proposal would allow, again, for this 10-story plus cellar building. The breakdown in floor area would be as follows. There would be 83,000 square feet, of which roughly 59,000 square feet would be for residential, 24,000 for commercial. It would rise to a height at the street of 93 feet with a total height of 115 feet. Again, this is roughly 5 feet less than is available under the existing R6 in a feasible building. There would be setbacks along Driggs Avenue and Lorimer. Parking would be in the cellar, would be attended parking with 30 spaces. And with regards to the unit breakdown, you've got 74 units of housing created hereby with a relatively robust mix of 12 studios, 21 bedrooms, 35 2-bedrooms, and 7 3-bedrooms. One of the things I think that's attractive about the proposal, and which was recognized by the community board, is that the affordable units here, which per MIH are in the same ratio as the market rate units in terms of unit sizes, would be in a building on the park. This is not necessarily a vantage and frontage, which would be accessible to people in affordable units, frankly. So we would be creating 3 studios, 5 1-bedrooms, 9 2-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms situated on the park, and those would be in accordance with MIH option 1. Next slide. So the other slides demonstrate buildings around McCarran Park. We were provided with some rendering massing plans by Kevin Williams, Equity Environmental, who's on the phone with us. And so you can see some of the taller buildings massed along the park. It's an area where density of this nature is not unknown. So you can see buildings ranging up to and above 90 feet, including buildings that are 12 to 14 stories. If you page past those renderings, you get to the community board and Brooklyn Borough President recommendations. While we did indeed include most of the provisions of those recommendations, in the interest of time, I will run through them fairly quickly. The applicant here, David Parnas, who's on the phone with us, looks forward in current communications and future communications with the council member in satisfying many of these recommendations, as well as others that are under discussion. There was a discussion with regards to facade design, which we're happy to comply with to include more brick on upper stories. There is signage from the old Royal Lace Paper Works facility, which was here prior to the feather manufacturing facility. This would be incorporated into the new facade. And there are other provisions which were requested by the community board, provide local retail, as well as certain environmental considerations, which we are reviewing and hope to comply with. I'd say importantly, there was a request for 35% affordable units. This is a relatively robust request for development of this size, but we are again in consideration of the discussions with the community board and the council member, looking at the numbers with regards to this facility and this development and seeing how we can increase our affordability. And importantly, also the community board recommended what I think is kind of an elegant request, which is that we provide for a lasting benefit to McCarran Park. With regards to development in general, it's nice to address some of the issues that arise from the development. And despite the fact that, again, there is an as-of-right development here, which would result in roughly 64,000 square feet, the applicant is thankful for the opportunity that has been presented through ULURP and through successful conversations with the community. And so we've had very serious conversation with parks, including a walkthrough of McCarran Park, and are discussing how we can make a lasting impact on the park. Prior to this application, I was really unaware that private development and donations can really add to and contribute and be responsible for improvements in the public realm of this nature. Tragically, McCarran Park has a dog park where in January of 2022, just several months ago, I think at least 4 dogs had died of bacterial infection from water, which apparently had come from the dog run of the park. And so, understanding that, one of the potential areas of improvement here is for the dog run at the park. This would involve a major capital investment. And so to the extent that we are continuing to work on this, it's something that we're happy to do. And it's a nice way to contribute and to allow for benefits to the community in the scope of this application. So next slide. Similarly, I will not go through each of the Brooklyn Borough President recommendations, but again, many of them echo the requests of the community stakeholders. This was a an approval by the Brooklyn Borough President. There was a request for local retail for option 1 for the MIH, which is something that we're supportive of. There was a request that we eliminate commercial space above the ground floor. This is something which can be accommodated by the current zoning district. So again, something that we're happy to look at and are currently looking at with the council member. In addition to that, there are sustainability measures and other nods to to the community board recommendations, which we are reviewing and intend to comply with. Next slide. With that, we've got the proposed plans. I would ask Richard and Sam if you wanted to briefly run through the development proposal, and then after that, the entire team is available to answer any questions.
I guess I'll do it because I don't know how well Richard's internet connection is. If we can go to the next sheet, thank you. Here you can see this is one of the renderings we had done of the proposed building, which shows the building going up through on the street facade across from the park and trying to integrate quite a few green elements on all the setback terraces and along as it runs up to the building. If we can go to the next slide, probably the same one. If we can go to the next slide, some of these Richard Lobel has already covered. So here we're seeing the green elements as they pull from the ground and the street trees all the way up through the building. And they move their way up, just pulling the green all the way to the roof and just complementing and mirroring the park. If we can go to the next slide. The next one, please. Here you can just see the location of the site in relation to McCarran Park and how it relates nicely. And that's why we're trying to pull the park into the building. If we can go to the next slide. We might as well, probably the next couple until we hit the first floor plan. One more, I think it's 2 more. Here we go. So in the cellar level, it's proposed to have parking as well as commercial space that is in conjunction with the commercial space up above. And then we can move up to the first floor on the next slide, where you will see 2 ground floor retail spaces, the residential lobby, and the access to the parking, which is a little bit on this level and below grade. And if we go to the next slide, we are now getting to residential amenities, which are overlooking the park, and some additional commercial space on the second floor. And if we can now go to the next slide for the third floor, we are starting with the residential units and the final section of commercial space. They are all completely separated. And then as we are up here, these are all residential units, all with nice, sunlight and views, taking advantage of the parks and pulling in on the roofs, as you can see how it's illustrated here, trying to pull in green as much as possible into the setback roofs as we go through. This is the 4th and the 5th floor, and we can move up to the 5th and the 6th floor. The setback terraces are not illustrated as green here, but you can see once again the units, and we're trying to just make them maximize the light and air that the units get for the tenants. And then if we go up to the 9th and 10th floor, it's set back one more time. We have a few more units on this level. And once again, all these terraces would be, trying to pull up the green elements through the building for the, to just make the building look like it belongs in a park. And that is the quick summary of our building. Richard Lobel, is there anything else you feel we should add here, or do you want to take it back?
No, I think that's fine. The rest of the slides basically just address different elements of the building. And in addition, we include typical slides with regards to MIH affordability and what those rents and income levels are. But I think with that, we've gone on for some time and are happy to answer questions as posed by the committee and the council members.
Thank you, Richard. And I just have a few questions, and I'm just going to ask them for the record. Sorry if you guys already went through it on the proposal already, asking on your presentation already. But the first question is, the proposed development site is currently occupied by a 3-story industrial loft building dating to 1930s. Did you consider converting the existing building to a residential use?
Yes, so Chair Riley, that's a good question. We did explore that in our initial conversations with city planning. and essentially we're discussing potential adaptive reuse and using that for residential. At the time, given the age and condition of the building, and in conjunction with our discussion with city planning, was determined that that building really wouldn't lend itself to being upgraded for residential. So instead, what was sought was to keep the facade and to allow for some of that facade treatment and that old style of building on the lower floors, and then to different building elements above. But it was something we talked about with them, and I think the community board was interested in our design and had a lot of comments. So I think the one thing is that came out of the community board discussions was that they wanted more brick in the building, which we're happy to provide. And I think that this is kind of the subject of ongoing discussion with the community board as far as putting an imprint on the type of building they want to see at this corner.
Thank you. Does your proposed design incorporate the existing building, or as you said, it did incorporate the existing render of it? But was there any plans of demolishing it before?
So to be clear, demolishing it before construction?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I don't know, Sam and Richard, do you want to just talk just briefly about how the existing building and how that would be treated?
All right, if you could hear me, if I could be heard and seen.
Yeah, we can hear you, Richard.
We can.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chairman Riley. So one of the considerations that we discussed with city planning very early on was to develop a commercial retail presence of the building on Driggs Avenue. Right now, of course, the building as it is really a warehouse, and in fact, it's a loading dock, which means that it was built so that trucks could back up to it, and that the ground floor of the building would be 4 feet or so above street level. So in order to get retail along Driggs Avenue, that level had to be dropped down to the actual level of the ground. That pretty much obviated the ability to preserve the building because of the structural considerations of trying to lower that floor down to ground level so they could serve that very much needed retail front on Driggs. And that's a tremendous benefit to the community to have that retail face on Driggs Avenue rather than loading dock. So that was a very, very important consideration, which made it almost impossible to keep the building. I think we'd all agree with that. Also, when investigations into the actual ground conditions, the ground conditions are not optimum. They really need new foundations, new footings, and that also eliminated the ability to use the existing structure. So even though we all like the idea of adaptive reuse, in practical terms, the building that was built so many years ago could not accommodate the type of uses and base and support for the development that we were proposing.
Thank you, Richard. I know the community board requested to reuse the masonry or the historic sign from the existing building at least. Is that feasible?
Yes. So the use of masonry and by the way, carrying the masonry all the way up through the building was something which was highlighted by the demands of the community, and that's something which we accommodated. So the masonry character of the development will be maintained, and that kind of is a way of acknowledging the historic types of materials that were used in the original buildings, and will be reflected in the new buildings, and will give that sense of that masonry face to the neighborhood.
Okay. Can you describe why you decided to pursue a rezoning for this site when neighboring property owners have successfully developed under the existing zoning?
I think Mr. LaBelle really explained that in his presentation. I'm happy to explain again for him, but I think Mr. LaBelle.
I can reiterate that. Thank you, Richard. Right now you can redevelop the site with a building that's roughly 64,000 square feet. And with the additional 19,000 square feet, your yield for the affordable units goes up. So I think possibly the consideration is that if you want a building that's heavily slated towards commercial/community facility uses, you can do that building as of right. The idea here was that, frankly, the opportunity to provide residential and affordability made it a more feasible project because you can, at the time, you could apply for 421A, although of course that is expiring. We expect that there will be some some proposal which would take its place. So some of those buildings, frankly, that are on the park have lovely condominium units that don't really open themselves up to members of the community, whereas here, the applicant who's had this building and has sat here for decades thought it would be a good thing to enable them to produce more residential here, to have a building with a better mix of uses, so you'd have a more feasible building, and also to potentially benefit from the tax abatements that were available. So it's a different style of building, it's a different mix of uses, it's a different type of tax abatement, and frankly, it's a better building for these times and for this market.
Thank you, Richard. The community board recommended an all-electric building and passive house construction standards. Are you able to make these commitments?
Yeah, Richard and Sam, I know it's something that we're looking into. Can you just speak to that briefly, just from your experience and your what you project for this building?
Yes, these are very important considerations, and that will go forward with the design of the building. And as the building gets more detailed in terms of its use of materials and the means and methods of constructing the building, the acknowledgement of the need for the building to be as green as possible is very high priority in all our considerations of how to put the building together and all its components.
Thank you, Richard. I would like to pass it over to Councilmember Ressler for his questions. Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Chair Riley. I'm just going to ask for basically yes or no answers to questions, or extreme brevity, just because we got the mayor's speech at 1 o'clock and I'd like to get to it on time. Okay, so you're proposing 115 feet height on this building. My understanding is that that's about twice as high as any other building on this block. Is that accurate?
The answer to that, if I'm just calling up the rendering which was prepared.
You've suggested a whole bunch of buildings that are a couple blocks away and on other sides of the park, but on this
there's
square
a building.
block,
there's a building on our frontage.
on this square block.
Yeah, there's a building on our frontage that is shaded. It's 70 to 90 feet. So no.
I'd like for you to come back to us in writing on that.
Okay, that's fine.
And affirm, but I think that we're talking about a building that's nearly twice as high as any other building on the block. When was this building purchased by the owner?
David, can you give me the date or the rough date of your purchase? I'm not sure if he's unmuted.
I'm on mute. Okay. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. This was at least my wife's grandfather, like maybe 60, 70 years ago, 60 years ago. I don't know, something like that.
Do you recall for how much, Mr. Prentice?
From my father-in-law, we bought it with his brother, and he had to buy him out for about, it was bought out for like $4 million about 20 years ago. My father-in-law passed away and left it to us to pay out. We've just finished paying the mortgage about a year or two, maybe a year and a half ago.
I completely understand.
That was a crazy price at that time.
I
it wasn't like we
understand
got it for 100,000 or something like that. It was
well,
it was a lot.
I know that for a family business, putting a few $1 million together is an extraordinary effort. But now rents on this block are going for as high as $12,000 a month. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know that. Let me know. I never saw.
Is that the expectation of the development
us,
team that they'll be renting out units for as high as $12,000 a month?
I'm not renting out $12,000. No, that's not happening. But the building next to us, which has beautiful units, I think maybe $3,000 to $4,000 at most. But that's what I know. That's what I hear.
I live a couple blocks away, and when we spoke to a real estate agent when we were looking for an apartment, we can afford nothing of, not even a teeny fraction of that. They mentioned apartments on your block that you're developing that were going as high as $12,000 a month. So
there's one building that went for condos. I think that went for a lot of money, but I think everything else is more like,
So, rents in our community have gone up extraordinary amounts. And so the amount that you'll be able to make from this upzoning and the units will allow for meaningful cross subsidies of affordable housing and other community investments should this project be approved. My understanding from Mr. Lobel's comments in this presentation were that the priority of the ownership team is more residential space. But this rezoning allows for multiple floors of commercial space as well. What is the plan for the commercial space at this location?
Yeah, so I'll start just from conversations with David, and as well as from the community board and the focus of CD1, there's been a focus on retail diversity. So any retail here would be local retail, smaller type shops. There was a specific interest in not having big box. So, we would basically work with the local
You're
community.
planning 3 stories of commercial, if I recall correctly.
Right.
So it's not just a question of retail frontage on bridge.
Right. So the intention, and again, we have some flexibility given the C45D, would be ground floor commercial, and the discussion was for 2 stories of office above, local office, professional office, and such. To the extent that the conversations are more towards providing additional residential as opposed to office, that's something that we're also extremely open to. I think the discussion here with city planning was that given the mixed use nature of the area, they wanted a zoning district which would have an opportunity at least to allow for more office.
My understanding is that the Brooklyn office market is significantly softer than even our Midtown Manhattan office market at this time. So it's, while I love the idea of people being able to live in the community and walk to work, it seems like a questionable decision to be investing in additional office at this time. There's a beloved restaurant that's kind of that this proposal engulfs, and the building it's situated within. Majority Leader Powers is always trying to get me to go have dinner with him at Bernie's. I'm concerned about the impact of the construction and the project as a whole on the residential and commercial tenant at that location. Wanted to affirm that you're committed to working collaboratively with the owner and of the building and the commercial tenant to address any and all needs that they might have through the construction process.
We affirm that 100%.
McCarran Park is as I mentioned in my opening statement, in need of a great deal of investment. And we are particularly interested in the need for a new dog run in this community. As you may know, we've had multiple disease outbreaks at the current McCarran dog run, which is wholly inadequate. Imagine some of the tenants in your building will add even more dogs to our community. Is working with us on the design and construction of a new dog run in McCarran, something that you're open to trying to achieve.
100%, and we echo the statements that have been made about the dog run and the applicant team is all dog lovers, so we're really in favor of that.
Right. So is my partner. I wanted to just also ask, we have a fair bit of flooding on Driggs at this intersection of Driggs and Lorimer. Like we do in much of Eastern Greenpoint. My understanding is that it will be the responsibility of the development team to make necessary investments to upgrade the sewage infrastructure if DEP determines that to be appropriate. Assuming that is the case, I just wanted to affirm that you all will make any necessary investments in the sewage infrastructure that our community would require.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm going to defer a little bit to, and I understand the timing issues involved right now because it's 12:52. But I would defer partially to Richard and Sam to talk about the sewer connections and what's required. But I, you know, from my zoning law standpoint, I can say that we'll do what we need to do.
Good. And then lastly, should we move forward, having a community benefits agreement in place is of utmost importance to memorialize the potential commitments that would be made to the community. I wanted to just, and I actually have one more question, I apologize, but I wanted to affirm that should we move forward, that the applicant is prepared to sign a community benefits agreement with local community stakeholders to ensure the commitments that are made to our neighborhood are enforceable.
Yeah, so there's a range of options which people look at, which range from a letter from the developer to restrictive declarations to community benefits agreement. Most recently, we've been involved in community benefits agreement that have been reviewed by land use council at the council. So we're happy to draft and provide that and to engage a local nonprofit as an enforcement agent.
Very much appreciated. We strongly prefer that model to the alternatives. And then lastly, just because of the extraordinary rents that can be secured at this location, we're looking to increase the amount of affordable housing that is generated at this site. Wanted to ask if the applicant is prepared to consider additional affordable housing beyond MIH to achieve a greater socioeconomic mix in our community.
We do, and I'll speak for David. He can tell me if he's in agreement. But it's one thing to talk about this and to talk about affordability, and it's another thing to actually put pen to paper and to figure it out. And here, I think the council members are aware we've engaged a feasibility analyst who is looking at the numbers and we get the fact that this is a benefit, and we don't take for granted the fact that not only is everyone giving us their time and energy, but that this would be, a new development, in a wonderful area of the city. And so with that, we would like to affirm that we are committed to looking at additional affordability and to making every good faith effort we can to up the affordability of the project. David, is that accurate? Okay.
Well, those cover my questions. I want to thank the applicant and their team and Chair Riley for affording us the opportunity for this conversation at the public hearing. This was constructive, and I appreciate the responses.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Ressler. I now invite my colleagues to ask questions. If you have any questions for the applicant panel, please use the raise hand button on the participant panel. Council, are there any council member questions?
No council member questions at this time, Chair.
There being no further questions for this applicant panel, you guys are excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on 840 Lorimer Street proposal?
Yes, Chair, we have so far 4 members of the public who signed up to testify. And so I'll say their names and then you can give the announcement. The first panel will be Agnes Reichert, Corey Canton, Danielle Dorchester, and Karen Seifert.
Members of the public will be given 2 minutes to speak. Please do not begin until the Sergeant at Arms has started the clock.
The first speaker will be Agnes Reichert.
Starting time.
You may begin.
Hello, so my name is Agnes Reichert, and I am the manager of a local dog daycare here in Williamsburg. A lot of my customers use the park, and a lot of my customers obviously live in the neighborhood. I'm also part of the McCarran Dog Run Alliance with Danielle Dorchester. And as she will also echo in her statements, the amount of residents that have come to the neighborhood has increased, and a lot of them are becoming dog owners or coming with their dog owners. And the current facilities that we have for dogs in the neighborhood are not good enough. As you guys have heard, there's been several outbreaks of different diseases where dogs have passed away. Unfortunately, dogs have gotten sick. We actually don't even have an official dog run in McCarran Park, for as big and beautiful of a park as it is. 10 years ago, it was, allotted that temporary space, and the city sort of never made it a permanent official dog run. So it would be amazing if, the applicant would work with us and work with the Parks Department to sort of improve the park and actually help us create an official dog run to accommodate all of the new residents and all of the new dogs. Oftentimes people come and the dog run is either soggy from all the rain or the mud, and then they end up letting their dogs off leash, just to kind of run around, which then leads to dogs pooping and peeing in the other areas. And then other residents get upset. So it's just a whole big sort of mess that hasn't been addressed. And I think increasing the population with a big development and bringing in more people who will inevitably have more dogs, as I've seen the increase in my customers at daycare and also in my private pet sitting, it would be absolutely beneficial to have the applicant invest and help us to improve the park.
Thank you.
Chair, the next speaker is Corey Canton.
Starting time.
Hey, Corey, I think you're on mute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all for your time today. My name is Corey Canton. I'm a 14-year Williamsburg resident. I'm speaking on behalf of, I'd say, a lot of residents. I'm also on the land use committee for the community board, and I want to say how thrilled I was to see all of our conditions on the screen earlier today, to really feel that we're being listened to in those long meetings. So what I wanted to speak a little bit about was, as the applicant is well aware, I think that this project, and really all projects that have come through North Williamsburg, have been about affordable housing. And the reason that that aspect, and 35%, I think, is the bare minimum, is because of the rising rents. And ultimately, when we upzone an area to have more luxury housing, what that does is it increases the cost of living for the neighbors around that. So really, the 35% has to do with offsetting the increase. So ultimately, if you add another 10 luxury units, then that will raise rents in the neighboring area. I also happen to be a real estate broker, and as such can tell you that rents around McCarran Park are generally 5,000 to 10,000. Obviously, maybe one bedroom's around 4,000, two bedrooms around 6 to 7, and then you are getting to the 10 to 12 level if you're looking at a 3-bedroom. So to note on Lincoln's question, and then obviously what the potential is for the site. In terms of the park, obviously the park is overrun. Anyone who comes on a Saturday or Sunday can easily see that. And so when you add density on the park, obviously those are park users. And so those users probably have dogs, as everyone's a dog lover in Williamsburg. So it's really important to us that if it is that this development gets approved, and just to note that the land use committee was said no with these conditions, that we ask that those conditions be met. Otherwise, it's really not a benefit to our community. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Corey. The next speaker is Danielle Dorchester.
Starting time.
Hi there. My name is Danielle Dorchester, and I'm the Director of Advocacy representing the McCarran Dog Run Alliance, a grassroots community organization partnered with the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance, a nonprofit organization. And we're aimed at maintaining the McCarran Park Dog Run and advocating for essentially a relocation and formalization of a dog run in the park. We've been dedicated to that for the last few months, and there was an association before us that was pretty much doing the same thing. So as mentioned, with this proposed rezoning, we're looking at 74 rental apartments, at least probably 150 or more people, in a parking garage designed to accommodate 30 plus vehicles. So we're not super thrilled about bringing more cars to the area, especially with the recent incidents of traffic related deaths in Greenpoint. So We strongly believe that developing and creating housing is, vital to promoting affordable rents in New York City. But right now, only 25% will be designated affordable housing units. So from our perspective, this remains primarily a profit-driven luxury housing building. So we are thrilled that the applicant has expressed interest in investing in the local community, that you're dog lovers, and we sincerely appreciate your acknowledgement of the issues that dog owners in our area have recently faced. So with the slow capital projects process, it'll be much easier to really affect real change by philanthropic means. So it's great to hear you say that you're so interested in this and dedicated to this. And I think that with more people in the area, more dogs coming, it will really be a mutually beneficial way of providing a vital amenity to the Williamsburg and Greenpoint communities. And it would certainly enhance the local appeal to prospective tenants. So as a resident of Williamsburg, I can attest that McCarran Park Dog Run is already completely at capacity, and it sounds like we're all aware of its derelict state. So it would, again, just be incredibly meaningful for the applicant to offset and prevent any potentially negative impact to the community by providing the resources necessary to create a larger, formalized, modern dog run in McCarran Park. And I thank you so much for your time and hearing me out and considering this issue so greatly.
Thank you, Danielle. The last speaker on this panel is Karen Seifert.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Karen Seifert. I have been a resident of Greenpoint just north of the park for the last 9 years, and I'm just here to echo the same thoughts as everyone else about the new dog run that's much, much, much needed in this area, especially during the pandemic. A lot more people adopted dogs. So it's needed. It's just absolutely needed. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Sorry, I mispronounced your name. Chair, that's all the speakers we have for this item. So we can go ahead and close the hearing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any council members with questions for this panel, council?
No council members with questions either. Wait, hold on. It looks like Councilmember Rester has a question. Sorry, Councilmember.
No, I just wanted to thank my neighbors for coming to testifying and sharing their really thoughtful perspectives. And it's very meaningful. Appreciate you taking the time and engaging in this process. It really makes a difference. And it's critically important for the applicant and for my colleagues to hear from you. So I just really want to thank each of you for joining us today. And thank you, Chair Riley, for giving us all the opportunity. Thank you, Councilman Ressler. There being no more questions for this panel, the witness panel is now excused. Council, is there another panel coming up?
No, that was the last panel. No more speakers for this item.
Right.
We can
Thank
close
you.
the hearing.
There being no other members of the public who wish to testify on pre-considered LUs related to ULIPs number C210299ZMK and N210300ZRK relating to the 840 Lorimer Street rezoning proposal. The public hearing is now closed and the items are laid over. I now open the public hearing on pre-considered LU related to ULIPs number C200358ZMK relating to the 2300 Crosby Avenue rezoning proposal in Councilmember Brandon's district in Brooklyn. This application seeks a zoning map amendment to map a C2-4 overlay within an existing R6 district. For anyone wishing to testify on this item, please register online now by visiting the council's website at council.nyc.gov/land use. Council, please call the first panel for this item.
The first panel for this item is Richard Lobel, Fayam Batan, Alex Liu, Michael Kang, Kevin William, Amber Kurtalian, and Dominic Recchio.
Council, please administer the affirmation to those who aren't already sworn in.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a reminder that Richard and Kevin, you are both sworn in. So for the rest of you, can you raise your right hand and I will call on each of you individually to answer the following questions. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answers to all council member questions? Fayam Batan?
Yes, I do.
Alex Liu?
Yes, I do.
Michael Kang?
Yes, I do.
Amber Cartalian.
I don't think she's on.
Okay, apologies. Dominic Recchia.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. For the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of the presentation, please send an email request to the land use testimony at council.nyc.gov. And now the applicant team may begin. Panelists, as you begin, I'll just ask you to please reinstate your name and organization for the record. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Riley. Council members, once again, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC here representing the 2300 Cropsey Avenue rezoning. Next slide. This is a very straightforward rezoning, which will hopefully not take much time to present. And then, of course, happy to answer any questions, as is the applicant team. So this would seek a rezoning, a zoning map amendment of Brooklyn Block 6471, Lot 109, and then parts of 2 other lots within Brooklyn Community District 11, and would merely take a C24 overlay commercial district and map it over an existing R6 district. So what's the net result of this rezoning? The current zoning map with an R6 district permits an existing 23-story mixed-use residential and community facility building. With the introduction of the commercial overlay, we would now be able to utilize 35,000 square feet of this building for commercial use, which is important because you'd be able to build the same building type, building shell, height, yards, etc. It's just that the commercial overlay now allows for commercial use and as is proposed as a supermarket. And we will see shortly from the other maps that this is particularly appropriate in this area. Next slide. So this is a copy of the zoning map. And what to note importantly about this map is that along Cropsey Avenue here, despite the fact that you have a wide street as per zoning and a fairly central thoroughfare, you don't have a commercial overlay and you don't have a lot of commercial overlays in the area. So you can see the hashed area, Bath Avenue, block to the north, there's limited commercial overlays. But on Cropsey itself, while there are some M1 districts to the south and southwest, separated by Shore Parkway, there's nothing immediately accessible to residents here. And so from the maps, as we will show, it's important to have commercial use here. Next slide. The next slide merely shows the development site in red and the area of the proposed commercial overlay. You can see that the commercial overlay, although mapped to certain widths in the interest of having a neat zoning map, really primarily affects the development site itself, primarily that in yellow, which is the proposed 23-story building under construction. If you could fast forward to the colored map, you will see, next one, you will see the land use map. And this really tells the story of why a commercial overlay is not just, not just acceptable here, but also fairly sorely needed. You can see that there are community facilities to the north and south of this development site. Those are nursing homes where you have an older population, senior population, and you can see that it's a relatively dense residential area, all the local side streets from Bay 31st through Bay 35th, with small residential buildings, as well as taller buildings along Cropsey Avenue and other nursing homes. I think there's 4 nursing homes within the radius of the property here. So you've got a lot of local residents, you've got a lot of employees for the senior assisted living facilities and nursing homes that don't have the opportunity to go and buy something that they need for in terms of retail, commercial, food stores, etc. So what this does is it provides for this limited commercial use, 35,000 square feet of it, to allow for local residents and workers to have easy access to a food store and other local retail. It's really something which is needed by the local area, which we think was affirmed by the unanimous community board vote in favor of this, as well as the support of the Brooklyn Borough President. I will not dwell on the remainder of the presentation. If you will page through, please, whoever's controlling the slides, you will see pictures of the building, which at the time was under construction and is now relatively more complete. Again, the building itself does not change in terms of the 23-story physical envelope of the building. but here you can see really what you get, which is that you get commercial use on the ground floor. This is a plan which demonstrates the driveway and parking area through the building. And with that, that's really all it is. We're happy to answer any specific questions from the committee.
Thank you. Would the applicant be open to conducting a traffic impact study 12 months after the completion of the project as requested by the community board and the borough president?
Sure. So, Chair Riley, this was something that was requested by the community board and the borough president, and I think was really the only significant area of concern. If Kevin Williams is still on the phone, can you address the opportunity for a traffic study here?
Yeah, so my understanding is that we're, firmly behind this. I think it's good for the project and helps us to make sure that the project's a proper fit in the neighborhood and to make adjustments. And I think from day one, obviously we would be observing how the project operates. So I think for Mr. Liu, I mean, we're prepared to offer that traffic impact study.
Thank you, Kevin. The community board and the borough president noticed several concerns about traffic along Crosby and the side street. Has the applicant examined any additional traffic calming measures that could possibly help this out?
Kevin, are you able to answer that as well? He may have to be unmuted.
There you go, Kevin.
Right. So this is one of the things in the course of doing the city environmental quality review analysis that, we often have to, particularly with the input of community board members and working through the Euler process, the environmental assessment process is very much a sort of screening process. And here where we're swapping out, potential medical office with, maybe a proposed supermarket, the traffic there doesn't really move the needle in terms of evaluating impact. So a detailed traffic study was not done. And actually, when you compare a medical office that was previously proposed per the supermarket, which has different peaks primarily on weekends, it actually results in a net negative traffic compared to what's allowed as of right. Having said that, I think one of the reasons why we're happy to do the traffic study is because we do need to see, given this building's unique mix of uses, whether or not traffic calming is needed. I would note, though, along Cropsey over the last 5 to 7 years, they provided enhanced crosswalks at 3 intersections directly across from the site that greatly improved the safety and security of people crossing those, as well as sign, through these intersections that you have, clearly delineated high visibility crosswalks with intermediate, because it's a large highway, there's a lighting areas in the middle of Cropsey Avenue, and a lot of that calming has been done. Now, I understand there's more concern on sort of the rear and Shore Parkway, and we would certainly look at that. I don't believe that as a part of this project, other than some arrivals and departures, that's going to be a very significant impact. But I think that's one of the things that will be born out of the traffic study, is whether or not, and even prior to the traffic study, operationally looking at the volume of vehicles and determining whether speeds need to be calmed. So we're absolutely willing to investigate that. But at this time, that wasn't a part of the environmental review process.
Thank you, Kevin. I will now turn it over to any council members who have any questions regarding this applicant panel's presentation. Council, are there any council member questions?
No council members with questions at this time.
There being no further questions for this applicant panel, you guys are excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on 2300 Crosby Avenue proposal?
Chair, there are no members of the public signed up to testify on this item.
There being no other members of the public who wish to testify on preconsidered LUs related to URLIPS number C-200-358 CMK relating to the 2300 Crosby Avenue rezoning proposal, the public hearing is now closed and the items are laid over. That concludes today's business. I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use, and other council staff, and the Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's meeting. This meeting is hereby adjourned.